was carrying the Protoss flag for all European Protoss out there, and ShaDoWn, he's been lying in wait. Anyhow, spawning over in the bottom left. As our red Protoss here on Inside and Out. Playing for Team Big, it is ShoWTimE.
And his opponent, spawning in the northeast, repping Berserker Esports, he is ShaDoWn.
I think this is the first time I've seen ShoWTimE with a hat.
Oh yeah, you know he's got pretty great hair. I'm not gonna lie, but
yeah, I was just thinking.
It's like you got to imagine some people that tune in, they like StarCraft. Like we can kind of guess that, but some people they tune in, they're like, all right, I just kind of want to just stare at ShoWTimE honestly for like this match, and then I got to go back to work. But I don't know, the hat and glasses look. I think that could do it for some people, Ben.
To me, he looks like he's going on a golf course with Cyril like an hour after this match, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I'm definitely getting the golfer man vibes. It might be the nice posture as well. It's also making me think maybe he had a seriously bad haircut, because I do recall a time when Rotterdam all of a sudden magically started wearing a hat for like 3 weeks on stream and never took it off. And that, I got to say, was one of the best haircuts I've ever seen.
Sometimes it'd be like that. It's I wouldn't know what that's like. Thankfully, my hair is always perfect all the time, as I'm sure you're aware. Me too. But yeah, it's a good look. The only thing is, if they're going to play some golf, ShoWTimE's probably carrying the cart in his hand rather than riding in it. So that's gotta be fun for Cyril, as we have the probes checking each other out, trying to make sure nobody expands too quickly. That little game of chicken. Are you going to build a cybernetics core in my natural or not? Age-old question.
ShoWTimE is the one. In fact, they're both opting for a Stargate nice and early here, which I remember seeing a long time ago, like when I first started watching this PvP shenanigans, and it was like Stargate first, and I was like, oh, so MaxPax made the Stargate before the Nexus, whereas his opponent went for the Nexus, but then he managed to get so much control out of getting an early Phoenix across the map and just caught proper tempo of the game. And ever since I saw that, I was like, man, I love these Stargate before Nexus builds, and it makes so much sense because every second really does count on those big techie units. But yeah, very much a mirrored game right now, which I got to respect ShaDoWn for making that kind of call, because going up against ShoWTimE, doing this kind of stuff, really going toe-to-toe with him, it's a difficult one to bring upon yourself, but so mirrored.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I was going to before we jumped into this one. As the Adept comes forward, nice little poke from the Stalker onto the Zealot. Might be able to grab that, but ShoWTimE is going to play the macro game if that's what you want. Like he's very rarely going to be like, yeah, I think my opponent might get greedy, so I'm going to do a one base all in. Like, no, he's totally fine. You want to try to do that? Great. You won't match him in macro. You'll try to harass them. You'll end up hurting yourself instead, and then ShoWTimE will just bowl you over with great mechanics and a big army. So for ShaDoWn, probably the best thing to do is try to find a way to be greedy against him. And yeah, I don't know. We'll just see if he finds that, or maybe he just tries to play straight up and just dies to him like everybody else.
This is always a tricky spot when it's like one player chooses to opt out of the Stargate, because there is a window here where you're going to have less gas than your opponent. And look at ShoWTimE. He's the one that's like, you know what? Let's go really hard on the sky. And ShaDoWn, he's already gone for that Twilight Council very quickly. So there's going to come a point where ShoWTimE's absolutely going to outnumber him in the skies, and that's when ShaDoWn is super damn vulnerable. But if he can get away with this, and if he can get away with this, it's so difficult, because when does he choose to opt out of Phoenix? Because as soon as he does, that's when ShoWTimE can absolutely pounce on him.
Yeah, definitely. And we know that, you know, I mean, Roddy, you know, whether he's stretching his legs or watching this one with us in silence, he's probably thinking to himself, okay, well, if you overwhelm with those Phoenix, and we had the Phoenix shenanigans already in PvP earlier today, then it kind of snowballs out of control and it gets very, very complicated. So your options become very limited unless you want to go full King Cobra and build 6 photon cannons around your main and natural on 2 bases, and go for that +1 armor mothership rush. But I've got a strange feeling ShaDoWn will not be doing that this game, and ShoWTimE is even moving forward with some pylons as that Phoenix count continues to rise. Ooh, Dark Shrine. I don't dislike this, but I'm not sure how well it's going to work.
I kind of like it, you know, because the detection for ShoWTimE is absolutely not there. And can he afford to go for an Oracle when he thinks he's in a Phoenix War? Absolutely not. But the thing for ShoWTimE is, does he move out? Because say if his opponent has more than him, or, you know, is doing the same, if you are on your opponent's side of the map, that's when he has more than you. So he has to be so careful. So ShaDoWn is absolutely working with the idea that he knows that ShoWTimE can't really commit unless he's freaking crazy, which ShoWTimE isn't crazy. He's freaking solid. So I think this is a really cool play by him.
He's putting pylons on the third bases. He's like, let's just make sure you don't expand here. And oh, let's just make sure you also don't expand over here. And he's getting a fleet beacon, so we'll see the anion pulse crystals come into play and make things very, very awkward for ShaDoWn. But like you were talking about, he thinks he's in a Phoenix War, not exactly focused on the detection setup. So while the DTs are being warped in directly into his base, mind you, across the gap, this is going to get ugly.
This could be GG straight away, you know, like it really could. He's making an Oracle now, so I think he knows what's up, and he's going for the Robo as well. These DTs are in, and ShoWTimE, I saw a tilt of his head, and oh mate, these DTs turned up so fast.
Yeah, you know, I guess I didn't really think about it. He might be the wall, but if there's a gap, you can just warp across. Wall not very useful anymore, and he's actually getting another one warped in from that pylon. You know, it feels like such a gotcha spot to place it, but that's one of those things you need to check for when you're playing on this map. You can warp right across that. You don't need anything to provide vision, and since it's not high ground, it still works like the old days of yore when people were able to warp up cliffs, which thankfully was taken out. So the Oracle gets the revelation. We have a DT or two killed. Another one finishes up inside of his base. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to do another one because the Oracle doesn't have the permanent detection, so it's just burning a lot of energy. Now the observer has to be made, and look at what ShaDoWn did too. He took the right side base. And,
oh no, he left that Phoenix there alone. He's not dealing with the DT. He dealt with another DT in his base. All right. So what does ShaDoWn have back at home? He still has a healthy Phoenix count, and he's going into Blink Stalkers. I mean, he could still potentially die. I do like the fact that he has gone for that far right base, though, as you said.
So, well, I guess I don't really have an easy way to kill the pylon with my Phoenix. So this is where ShoWTimE tries to clap back, and there's not a lot that can deal with this. It's not like the DTs all came home and got turned into Archons. So while we did have a lot of ShoWTimE's workers die, now the Phoenix come back, try to answer it. So he's going to get baited back. It's 46 to 37. So definitely a funky spot to be in for our German Protoss player. And ShaDoWn, that Nexus is done. ShoWTimE's aware of it. He scouted it. He saw it with his air unit. So he probably should be feeling a little bit of that pressure to do something about it before ShaDoWn is able to get it saturated.
ShoWTimE's making a lot of errors this game, man. Like a lot of errors. Obviously, a lot of it is through no fault of his own, and ShaDoWn's really good play. But some things like that, losing the Oracles like he did, that was just a little bit sloppy. But he will start up a third base. He will find out where the third base of ShaDoWn is. And I mean, these are going to be free pickings here. And the fact that he does have control of the skies is really good for him. But ShaDoWn is switching out of it. But all things said and done, probe count absolutely equal at this point, like 48 to 47. Damn. What a switcheroo.
You know what else is really interesting to think about in this game, DeMuslim, is that Warp Gate is only just now finishing for ShoWTimE. And obviously he's been building a lot of Stargate units, but I was wondering if we would see like a +1 air. I don't think at this level of play, a Protoss like ShoWTimE would ever get +1 before Warp Gate, right? So kind of makes things interesting because he went back into building more Phoenix, and they don't necessarily have all the firepower that he may have otherwise wanted. So that third base is going to be, I think he might just have to cancel it. I don't see how he defends it here.
I actually felt that maybe ShaDoWn should have waited a little bit out of vision there of the Nexus, just to, you know, let it finish up and then kill it. But he doesn't do that. These Archons are going to be very problematic. But ShoWTimE's army, a little bit of Protoss mech over here, has to be super careful with his Phoenix. He does have better range than his opponent's Phoenix. And if he can take all them out and make this an Immortal versus Stalker situation, but it's going to be Immortals or rather the Stalkers as well as Archons. It's going to be tough. Oh, yeah. Nice
scored. Gets a little one shot onto that Phoenix and heads back to the battery. So definitely good usage of those. And ShoWTimE taking that bottom right corner base. I love it. This game just got so funky. This base is very exposed. There's a pretty quick, direct path for ShoWTimE to take to get over there. So, I mean, it kind of feels like a little bit of free pickings on the workers here.
I love that he sent 3 Phoenix back to protect his Immortals, because no way can ShaDoWn dive with just 4 Phoenix against a good number of Phoenix. And ShaDoWn does end up coming back. He will pop the shield battery overcharge, but he's still massively outnumbered at the air count. This was a really sweet move by ShoWTimE to buy him some time.
Yeah, and kill a lot of workers in the meanwhile. That bottom right Nexus is finished. So he's going to recall. The 3 Phoenix try to return. 1 gets popped on the way. The rest are going to make it over to the natural, and he did recall to the bottom right corner base, so he is getting that set up. ShaDoWn is not aware of it, despite having a pylon nearby. So ShoWTimE is just trying to unleash hell on the economy of our blue Protoss while keeping a big bulwark at the top of that natural ramp, getting the Immortals back inside that wall, and just saying, doing a little Hodor impression.
This game is ridiculous. How many probes have died? 56 for ShaDoWn, 25 for ShoWTimE. And like the bases, the proxy bases and whatnot, just ridiculous. ShaDoWn, he's like, God damn it, why am I in this position? And well, these things just happen sometimes, man. PvP is a wild one these days.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. PvP has like slowly been creeping up to be one of the most fun matchups this season to watch, because again, it's been so dynamic. We're seeing people do crazy things, and there's not like this cookie cutter build order that everybody has the gentleman's handshake. We're all going to do this one thing. It's like, no, it's just chaos, madness all over. And ShaDoWn's army is terrifying. He's got so much just meat. But ShoWTimE is up to 5 Immortals, and with the Phoenix support, feeling like, okay, the Stalkers kind of become irrelevant, so something's got to give to deal with that. And ShaDoWn might be getting a little bit over comfortable, not realizing that ShoWTimE does have a mostly saturated base hidden in the corner.
Oh, ShoWTimE spots these 2 DTs here, just lurking around here, and that's a nice juicy snipe there. 250 straight down the drain, and all of a sudden ShoWTimE's actually ahead in supply, which after killing all those probes, that's awesome. And his army's starting to look freakishly scary. I mean, 4 Archons are all well and good for ShaDoWn, but the fact that there's very little that ShoWTimE's army doesn't do bonus damage against,
Yeah, seriously. And double disruptor is the follow-up for ShaDoWn. This is a great answer to the Immortals, but we need to keep in mind that Phoenix are also a great answer to disruptors. You can cancel the Nova by picking them up, and obviously if you get an opportunity to backstab, or if they get separated from the force, then they are easy picking. So it's going to become a nice little classical PvP dance of disruptors versus Phoenix, and a whole lot of Immortals and charge lots from ShoWTimE.
Yeah, chasing is really scary here, because there's that big grass on the right side. He does spot the disruptor now, and will get, oh my goodness, that's so damn close.
And he's been checking forward with his observers too, to make sure there's no detection here from ShaDoWn, because he's got DTs mixed into his ground army, just enough that you can't quite tell until it's too late and you've taken some pretty significant losses. ShoWTimE strikes back and climbing in the supply versus his opponent quite well for the first time in this match. No longer on his back foot. That ninja base has paid off, and this is a massive opportunity if he can continue to encroach on this third. An observer was just built for ShaDoWn, but that's the other side of the Phoenix. He can deny the detection. The observer is dead. We still have 4 DTs with this, or actually 6 Dark Templars with the army hacking and whacking and smacking, and there is just no answer for it from ShaDoWn. He does bring another observer over. That one also gets sniped, and ShoWTimE has completely killed his detection once more. What do you do?
Hey, this reminds me of like a Brood War-esque kind of game, where it's like you get the Corsairs for the Overlords, and then it's just DT heaven.
Beautiful.
Like this is
beautiful.
This is, he's got no detection. He can't get detection. It's just going to get sniped out of the sky. This is the kind of build that you're like, hey, this is what you do, right? And oh my gosh, ShoWTimE really willed himself back into this.
Absolutely amazing game out of ShoWTimE. The detection situation was finally resolved for ShaDoWn, but it is way too late to help. And ShoWTimE at double the supply is just continuing to pound through. I don't know that it even needs to break the natural. Just go back, set up. Oh, there's a little head shake there. You're always looking at the webcams, Ben. You're way better at that than me.
Mate, both of those guys, like, okay, that was amazing. ShaDoWn looked away to the left somewhere, and he was just like, I can't believe he did this. Like, I can't believe he came back. That was ridiculous.
I can't believe you've done this.
Yeah, he was truly like, it was just like, I can't believe it, you know? And ShoWTimE was just smiling his ass off, because I think he was also like, my goodness, that Phoenix sniping, and then those DTs in the army as well. What a comeback. What a comeback. That was some gorgeous StarCraft. I genuinely, I thought ShoWTimE had no chance of coming into that. And I think ShaDoWn, I think everybody felt the same, but holy crap, that was beautiful.
Absolutely wild game. And I gotta say though, kudos to ShaDoWn, because he certainly did put himself in a spot to be able to take that game. It's as simple as, like, he's got the pylon on the right. He had units watching both third bases, but even though he went around the pylons himself, it didn't occur to him that ShoWTimE might also do the same thing, because if he shuts down that ninja base, all of a sudden ShoWTimE has a much more difficult, meanwhile, getting all of those units together, because the Phoenix aren't cheap, the Immortals aren't cheap. Every penny was so instrumental in getting him out of that situation. Just a little bit too much chaos for ShaDoWn to handle. But it's not, I think that game is pretty clear evidence. It's not like he can't get into a good position. We're just shown again why ShoWTimE is such a god of StarCraft.
No, he really is. Because I mean, like that opening there with the DTs, he was as good as dead, man. Like, he really was. I can't emphasize it enough. But the resources lost tab at the end of that, it was literally double. It was 20k resources lost versus 10k. And you can see ShaDoWn looks a little flustered. He's kind of muttering away to himself. Anyhow, spawning over the bottom left of Data C to start things off here in the second game. It is ShoWTimE.
And his opponent spawning in the northeast here of Data C. He is ShaDoWn.
That was a game, man. That was a great game. ShaDoWn.
Yeah.
The fact that he got that pylon up where he did, that was super sneaky. Because I think it's really hard to get a unit out on the map unless you already had one in the which is absolutely what he was vying for. And he played really smart with constantly showing that he had a good and growing Phoenix number. That's the important part. That ShoWTimE had no freaking clue what was going on. So good trickery by ShaDoWn, but he didn't. Not spotting that bloody proxy nexus in the bottom right, that really bit him in the butt. And we've had a few games like that tonight where there's been a proxy base and players have got away with it. But yeah, that's definitely going to be one that haunts him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it instantly just brings me back to every other match that we've had today, because there have been so many bases that have kind of been getting thrown around in these crazy situations. And I guess Mana, right, was on this map that he had that northwest base. Wasn't quite enough on that specific map, but it's just one of those things that just makes sense to do sometimes. You have to play around what your opponent expects. And if your opponent thinks that you respect them, then they'll be like, well, he's not just going to try to take a ninja against me, right? Like, he's probably seriously trying to just build something up at home and break out and take his third. And that mindset can lead to those mistakes. And we've been eyeballing this probe very close to the main base of ShoWTimE. Seems like a prime real estate for a Stargate.
Yeah, I mean, Stargate, you got a ramp, you got the one gate. Like, I mean, ShoWTimE's playing very solid, very, very true to himself. I am very curious about ShaDoWn, though, because he very much could do some of these, like, 4-gate situations, right? Like, it's a robo here, so he is going to play very aggro.
What do you think? Like, he just, like, stalkers and a prism, or do we get a little cheeky immortal action?
I think it's going to be stalkers prism. But we'll see. You know,
I'll tell you what I don't think. I don't think it's an observer rush. I'm gonna rule that one out.
Definitely not an observer rush. No. Definitely not one of those. This for ShoWTimE though is already probably like, all right, this is obviously a different game, weird. Boom, starts up a void ray immediately. So like he senses something's up.
Smart.
Yeah, it's a smart move for sure. Always spots
and now
it.
The probe sees it. Oh, okay, that's huge. By the time, like, prisms take a little while to build too. So by the time that he's able to squeeze that out, the void ray can be over there, can be pretty close by. So getting the prism away and being able to do something with it will be one thing, but the robotics facility, because it's on the edge too, the void ray can kind of safely just melt it from the outside as soon as he feels safe to do so, which makes this quite precarious for ShaDoWn. Warp gate is finished. The units are all here, ready to go, trying to get in before the Void Ray gets in play, and it arrives right as the Prism finishes, like we said. And yeah, what are you gonna do?
I mean, that's already a start, isn't it? I mean, he is going to warp in some units there at the Warp Prism itself, not using the pylon. That was obviously smart by ShaDoWn, just utilizing his Protoss trickery. And honestly, the Robo, oh my goodness, that Void Ray getting low. It's not that necessary right now, is it? He's getting an Observer that will help with his information and stuff, but he doesn't really want to be making Immortals out of this or another Warp Prism, so it's not that bad for him.
Now, this is where the camera starts to work against you a little bit. As you see, we've got that high ground, trying to find the space where he can poke out of range without being pokeable by the Stalkers. And as those step to the right side, they're all going to reposition towards the front, but the Robo has now been depowered. He did squeeze out that Observer, so he can see where everything is, but trying to elevate her up is still going to be a tall ask. He has a battery in the main worth adding and 2 at the ramp. So this is not like there's a one soft spot that ShoWTimE just hasn't accounted for. He is taking this as seriously as he needs to. ShaDoWn is not expanded behind this.
No, he has not. It's going to be 3 Void Rays very soon. And I mean, that is obviously a lot of Stalkers, but they don't have Blink. I mean, the Warp Prism kind of acts like Blink in a way, but you know, having the Blink ready and available makes this a lot more difficult. ShoWTimE's been so patient about this Sentry as well. Can obviously throw in a Force Field, but I think far more than likely he's going to be going for that Garnish. Oh, has to be so careful with these Voids, man.
Especially that weak one is the one that's closest to the front. And I think that's something that maybe I just want to pull that one back a little bit. Let that be the one that's tucked in. Maybe we've seen some of the Stalker heavy all-ins like this succeed just by getting enough to be able to one-shot the Voids, because you're like, oh well, 3 Void Rays powerful with the battery, but if the unit dies in one hit, battery is not going to do a whole lot. So there's a Force Field trying to pull, but the Warp Prism being used to juggle is still working. 1 Void Ray very close to getting killed, and very few Stalkers have actually been destroyed in this match.
I'm so surprised. The Void Rays haven't been used for their prismatic alignment, and now it's popped, but it's almost like he was using them to bait a lot, just using their mobility to go back and forth and just letting his own Stalkers deal the damage. Very, very interesting that, but he made it look like the absolute way to micro your Voids. Well done by him.
Yeah, definitely can't say enough good things about that. And it's not like he really has to move out into the middle of the map, because we know ShaDoWn's on one base. ShoWTimE may not necessarily know that, but he's ready to just come out and fight. That Void Ray head-to-head can do so much damage. A lot of these Stalkers are very low from the Prism juggling phase, so they will all go down. Robotics Facility is unpowered and useless. GG's called.